Hello, my name is Sophie and welcome to Spin a Good Yarn. It is currently about 7:10 on an evening on the bank holiday weekend and my son has just gone to bed. Sadly, the sunshine has not lasted, but I'm filming out here because I have a sheep's fleece to process. This is the first time I've ever processed a raw fleece. I will give you a peek into the bag first of all. I think it's beautiful. It's described as fawn coloured. I can definitely see that. It is from Fernhill Fibre, which you probably got from the label, and it's Romney/Corriedale, so Romney Cross Corriedale. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's nearly 2 kilograms worth of yarn because I'm hoping to do a sweater project with it, and it being my first time processing fleece, I'm not sure how much I'm going to lose. I'm not sure. Got a new drum carder. It's all different skills, but I thought it'd be really fun to come along. I watched Cozy Books and Knits process a fleece a while ago, but I never saw it get to the end, I don't think. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun to just film and share my experience of processing my first fleece. I'm so excited. I have, just by the magic of cinema, actually just started to skirt a little bit of the fleece earlier on in here. I'll just show you the difference. So this is what it looks like with me having just picked through it manually and just taken out some of the worst bits of the VM and any poo and other bits that sheep have, or anything that's on their fur, on their wool that we don't want. And I feel very lucky that I'm part of a spinning guild that's very local to me and that I've just adored being part of so far. So I've had lots of hints and tips given to me already by other people in the guild that I think definitely will make a difference in processing this fleece. The thing I heard most loudly from all of the people at my guild when I said I was planning on doing it for the first time was to wash in small batches. Wash in what you can fit in a washing up tub and no more, so that you don't commit yourself to being midway through a full fleece washing. So I've taken that to heart. And the other thing that they advised me was to take your time at every step. That every step, taking your time makes the difference in terms of the finished object you'll end up with. So I'm going to try my best to do that, but I'm super excited. So yeah, come along with me as I do a little bit of skirting this fleece as a first step, maybe just half an hour or so this evening. Yeah, enjoy. Hello. It's a few days later and I've been playing around with my fibre prep. I have a slightly smaller bag of fleece now. And I just wanted to update you on what's developed since I started. So I've actually been using a little carder to flick card out my tips. So this is a piece of raw fleece here, and you can see that some parts of it are more attached together. And to kind of loosen those up, I was doing it manually to start with. I am actually flick carding those out. I thought it might be fun just to show you how I'm flick carding. This isn't a specific flick carder, it's actually a finishing brush that came with my second-hand drum carder. But it's doing the job great, and I will just allocate it for raw fleece use. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you what that looks like, and I'm really preferring that product. I did also do a test batch of scouring some wool with the wool wash I already had. Which didn't go well. It left too much lanolin in, so I'm gonna re-scour that batch. But it's been fun to kind of just experiment, and the fibre did come out incredibly clean. So I do think that opening up the locks helped to get a really clean fleece after scouring. It just didn't do as good of a job of taking the lanolin out as I wanted it to. So yeah, I'll show you what it looks like now to flick card. I also think this is kind of interesting. So this is what the raw fleece looks like nothing done to it whatsoever. Then in this bag is what it looks like, that the stuff that looks like that comes off of my combs. So you can definitely see a lot of dirt in there, a lot of shorter fibres. And how nice already does this unclean, unscoured raw fleece look like, just with that ends worked out. And this is then the quality of what I've been washing. What I've really been enjoying is flick carding the ends. So you grab a couple of locks, give it a little bit of twist, just like you would when you're spinning, just so that you can put a good amount of force on the end without the fibres slipping. I also just check for my second cuts as I'm doing this. And then with your flick carder, or like mine, any kind of like brush with tines, a pet brush would do the job. You just kind of go and flick over those ends, and what you'll see as I'm working is the fibres A, start to get more fluffy, and B, you start to work out some of the material that's in there that's actually going to lead to more VM being in there, or shorter fibres, undesirable fibres, and it gathers up on your brush like this. So you can see this is fibre that if I'd left in my spinning, it would have been netty. It's short, and there's a fair amount of VM that comes off too. And I just keep on flicking my little brush. Be really careful not to hit your hands. These brushes are so sharp, and I properly skinned my knuckles the first couple of days. It's probably been a week, I guess, since I've been just experimenting on my like raw fleece pack, properly taking my time, like I said I would. So I thought I'd show you next how I scour my wool. So this tote here is actually full of wool that has been scoured. I've been practicing before I showed you guys to make sure I had it down the way I wanted it. And in this tub here is wool that I have picked but have not yet scoured. I'll try to show you the two together. You might be able to kind of see that the one on the left, the scoured wool, is a bit fluffier, whereas the wool on the right is less fluffy and a bit yellower. So some of this wool is really quite white as compared to the wool in here. So that's the whitest wool that I'm showing you in there. So we can tell there's still a lot of dirt caught in our fleece, and I've done a fairly good job, I think, by scouring. So I've got a little bit that I picked through this morning, and I thought I'd just show you first of all what I use, and then just show you how I'm scouring this fleece. So the tools I'm using are very simple. I'm using some original Fairy washing up liquid, and I'm using this, which is a Sprocket. It's a specifically branded bucket with a strainer in it. It also has a little draining mechanism down here. You don't have to use this, you could use other container suits. Now just put it on this side so you can still see. So then what I've been doing is filling up the bucket most of the way full. Actually, I'll leave the strainer out, and just putting some fairy liquid in there. Something that was a top tip for me, because I ended up scouring the first load of wool I washed twice, was to put enough in that the water has a feel to it. So I'll fill the water up because it's a bit loud, filling up a tap, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the water run. My fleece seems to do quite well with the hottest water that the tap can make, which is, I think, around about 50 degrees, based on the shower temperature. So yeah, I'm going to fill my bucket up and then I'll show you what it looks like after that. So once I fill my bucket up about halfway, I'm then putting in a lot of fairy liquid. So enough to turn the colour of the water green, and enough so that when I'm running my fingers through it, I can feel the soap in the water. And that seems to have really helped, like feeling the slickness of the soap. And it is very hot, it seems to work quite well. Then I put my little strainer in gently and just let it sink down by itself. After that, I'm putting the wool in, but I'm actually doing this outside. If this was my own house, I probably would do it inside, but this is really the smelliest, the most lanolin-y smelling part of the process. So as a courtesy, I'm doing that outside. Okay, so we're now outside, and I'm just going to put in a fair bit of wool, but I want to make sure that there's still quite a lot of room for it to move around. So when I put some in, I'm going to gently press it down into the water. And I'm being very careful here, even though it is Shetland and it's not liable to felt too easily, just to be very gentle with the wool. And you can probably see, like, almost immediately how the water is changing colour. And it's going to go into a kind of yellowy colour which is partly what we're seeing on the wool. So that's a mixture of sweat from the sheep, dust. The sheep has very like reddish dust. I'm going to try and squeeze just a little bit more in here, but then that's it, because I want it to have enough room to move around easily. I do think I could be putting, do you know what, let's put a little bit more in. I do think I'm probably being a little bit overly cautious with how much I'm putting in, because I want to make sure that I'm giving it a really nice wash. I'm really wanting my fleece that I'm carding to be super clean. And then once the wool is all submerged, I'm going to leave this here for 20 minutes and then come back and rinse the water out, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so it's now been 20 minutes and I'm going to pick up the strainer portion of the bucket and just let some of that water dribble through. There's still a lot of soap suds in there, so I have been giving this 3 washes. So the first wash to remove most of the lanolin and the dirt, the second to remove soap and any dirt that remains, and then the last just to really get the fleece completely clean. This is what our water looks like. So you know how I said it was going to turn kind of yellowy? I'll pop our strainer over here. This is what it looks like with all the lanolin in it. Someone described it and it was really helpful for me, that the hot water is what strips the lanolin. It melts at a low temperature, around about 40 degrees centigrade. And it's the detergent that then binds to the lanolin that makes sure as the water begins to cool down that it's attached to the detergent and is no longer in the wool. So for the second time, we've just got some completely clean water. And this is the beauty of the strainer bucket, is I don't have to really disturb my wool at all. All I do is I let it settle and then I just gently compress the wool just to get some of those soap bubbles out. It's a little bit harder to watch on, but this will probably come out slightly cloudy too, but take out a lot more of the soap. And then the last one is just my final clean water rinse. And this is what our second rinse looks like. I'll just move the wool out for you. So still a bit cloudy, but much cleaner. So we have just one more time to go. So I'll fill this up with clean water for the last time and rinse out the last bit of our wool. And then this is what we look like in the final rinse. So again, just let some water drain out. You can see it's now clear and not cloudy, and we haven't got the soap residue on the wool still. So we've scoured this little section of fleece.